Hey everybody, happy Friday. It's Brian Haskins here with Wholesale to Riches and BrianHaskins.com. Wanted to make a quick video, show you the number one tip for negotiating with motivated sellers. Now, this is something that has helped me buy houses right out from underneath my competition, and it really is something that you're going to want to keep in your little bag of tricks because it's something that's helped me out and made me a ton of money over the last few years. So real quick, let's go ahead and jump right on in. I'm going to make this a nice and short video for you. But it's going to be something that you're definitely going to want to take some notes on, okay? All right, the number one tip to motivating with, the number one tip to negotiating with motivated sellers is guiding them to the right price. And what I mean by this is giving them information and justifying your offer and basically showing them proof so they can make their own decision. It doesn't help or it doesn't work necessarily if you just walk into a deal. The homeowner's asking, let's say, $100,000 for the property. You know that you can't buy the property, for anything less than, let's say, $60,000. There's no way that you're going to be able to walk in there and just say, look, the house just isn't worth that. And just kind of talk to them and tell them that. You're going to have to show them some sort of proof. So here's what you're going to do, basically. You're going to have to justify your offer. And the way that you're able to justify your offer, there's two ways. Number one is to bring comps in, okay? Now, bringing comparable properties into the appointment is something that I always recommend to do because it's going to be able to give you proof what houses are actually selling for. Now, most neighbors, whenever they sell a house in a neighborhood, typically are going to lie about what they sold the house for. Even though it's public record and people can find out what it really sold for, most neighbors lie about what they sold their house for. So think about it like this: all the people that you're going on the appointments for, you basically are going to have a very skewed idea of what houses are selling for in their neighborhood, because more than likely they're just going off the opinions of their neighbors. They're not checking the tax records, or they don't know anything about real estate, so they're just kind of going off of what they've heard. So this really doesn't help you out, because what happens in most cases is, again, the people just lie. So it's very difficult for you to be able to kind of justify your offer unless you can bring hard proof. I can't tell you how many appointments I've been on where the person said, oh, this house right next door sold for $123,000, but in reality it maybe sold for $95,000, $96,000, and the other neighbors lied about what it actually sold for. So this happens very often, so it's a great idea to bring comps and actually show them and see if you can print off comps with pictures, because that helps as well. Because sometimes people will be like, oh, well, my house is worth $150,000, when in reality the houses that are selling for $150,000 are completely renovated and their house, needs $40,000 worth of work. So you just kind of have to bring them down to reality, and there are some good ways to do this. And one of the ways, like I mentioned, is by showing them comps and justifying the offer, bringing them down to reality that way. And then also a seller's net sheet. A seller's net sheet is by far my favorite way to kind of justify my offer and bring people down to reality, because these people, they just go off of what they hear. They have maybe a realtor talking in their ear saying, I can get you top price, get you retail for your property. And a seller's net sheet is a great way for you to actually, number one, justify your price and also bring them into reality. So let's go over what a seller's net sheet is. A seller's net sheet basically just breaks down the money in a transaction and how much money they're actually going to make. Now, this is awesome for, let's say, comparing, your offer to, let's say, that of what a realtor can do whenever they go to sell your house. We'll use a $100,000 market value property as an example, okay? So like after repaired values is going to be, let's say, $100,000 on this property. If they were to sell it with a realtor, right off the top, they're going to have 7% in real estate commissions. Could be a little less, could be 5 or 6%, but typically, for all my examples, I use 7% because I know a lot of realtors that charge 7%. So that right off the bat is $7,000 off of their $100,000 that they would get if they sold with a realtor. Okay, and right now in today's market, there is nobody that's paying full market price. Okay, nobody. So let's say the average is going to be somewhere between 5 and 7% in negotiations. We'll just use 7% for this example. So that's $7,000 off the $100,000 as well. Okay. Now, also in today's market, everybody is making you pay for closing costs. This is a buyer's market. The buyer gets to decide what happens if the house just doesn't get sold. Okay, so there's $4,000 in closing costs right off the top. All right. Now, also in today's market, and especially if you're selling with a realtor, you're going to have to fix properties up. There's going to be things that need to be done. Okay, even if you're selling it as is, sometimes the city or the county is going to come in, and for the most part, it's going to be about $5,000 in repairs. Okay, that's pretty common. Okay, and then lastly, in today's market, properties are not selling right away. Okay, you are going to have, on average, in your area, anywhere between 5 and maybe 10 or even 12 months that the house is going to sit on the market. You have to justify in holding costs, and holding costs on a, let's say, $100,000 property on average is going to be about $7,000, or I'm sorry, $1,000 a month. You average that by, let's say, 7 months. That's $7,000 in holding costs, and that's one of the biggest things that people just don't understand. So if you can break this out, lay it down for them, get their mind working how you want it to work, so they understand all the things that go into everything, it's much easier for you to be able to justify your offer. So that's $30,000 off of their $100,000 they think that they would get if they sold with a realtor. Okay, so that's something that's very, very important to point out. Now, here's how you can go on to actually justify your offer even better now that you've gone through the seller's net sheet. Okay, all right. So here's a few more tips that'll help you out. Now, if they were to, go with a realtor, they were going to get basically $70,000 for a $100,000 property. So that's 70% of the after repaired value is what they would sell it for. Now, typically that's about what our wholesale buyers are going to pay for a property. So for us to be able to make our split, let's say we wanted to make $5,000, we would just have to go in and negotiate it at 65% of the after repaired value. So we'd have to get them down another $5,000. So here's what we could do to do that. All right, we could say, all right, look, this right here is, what you could get through a realtor, and that's going to be waiting 7 months. That's a huge headache. Why wouldn't you want to take a little less now? Let's say, why don't you take $65,000 now, get rid of this headache, and I'll, give you cash for this property, and we'll be able to move on today instead of dragging this out for another 7 months. And you never know. This is just the average. It could be much worse than what I, laid out for you. So those are some really good tips and some things that you can kind of say to them to kind of help justify your offer even better. So it's really, really important that that you think about it like this, and you're prepared whenever you go on the appointment to be able to kind of go through all this, and you can print out and make your own little seller's net sheet and kind of be prepared whenever you go in to justify your offer. So again, I just wanted to make this quick video to show you the number one tip that I use for negotiating with motivated sellers, and then how you can justify your offer. So again, this is Brian Haskins with WholesaleToRiches.com, BrianHaskins.com. Hope you enjoyed this quick little video and have a great day.